I'm joined by Christine Estima, feminist, playwright. Last time she spoke to us, she was talking about her appearance on the TV show If Women Rule the World. Christine, do you call yourself a feminist?
I do indeed, and I'm actually quite proud to call myself a feminist, and I think that more women should take pride in that term.
What do you mean by it?
Well, I think that a lot of people have this misnomer about what the term feminist means. I think that people think that it means, burning bras and hating men and men are inferior and blah, 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 and that's not what it's about at all. Feminism is equality. Feminism is about revamping laws and social structures so that all avenues of society are open to all walks of life. So not just women. It's for people of different ethno-cultural minorities, people of different sexual orientations, anybody who's felt ostracized or marginalized by dominant culture.
So would that, you could be a feminist because you thought black men didn't get a fair deal and things, could you? Would that make you a feminist?
It absolutely could. I mean, I think feminism, the reason why it has the term feminist, because it was started by women. It was a women's movement. But it's not exclusive. It's not exclusive to just women. It's exclusive to anybody who feels like dominant culture is not including them, that they don't have representation, that their voices are not being fostered.
When was the heyday of feminism?
Well, I think that, the first wave of feminism that we saw, I think, in modern Western culture would probably be during the suffragette movement for women's votes. And I think that it had, I think its heyday, as you put it, would probably be in the 60s and 70s when it really gained momentum, when people were really inspired by what it had done. I mean, we had just been inspired by the civil rights movement and all that. So I think that this is another movement that people really wanted to see come about. They really wanted in society. Unfortunately, I think in the 1980s, that's when the backlash happened and feminism became a dirty word.
And the dirty word is because of what? What do people assume we're talking about these days when we talk about feminism?
Well, I think that, I actually think that, comedians have had a big part to play in this. In the 1980s, a lot of comedians, male comedians, it's important to note, came out and said, feminism, those girls who burn bras and blah, blah, blah. And that woman who shot Andy Warhol didn't really help things out with her she created a society called SCUM, which stands for Society to Cut Up Men. And I don't think that it really helps things either. And so that kind of gained momentum, this idea that, on Rush Limbaugh, when he said feminazi on air, that just spiraled out of control. And I think that all these different things, they built up to this idea that feminism was this somehow this negative kind of exclusive term that was ostracizing men, when really it was trying to include everybody. Feminism equals equality.
Yeah, of course, if you get more equal for some, it means being less equal for others, doesn't it? But logically, men would lose some of their power if women were equal.
Well, I think that scares a lot of people. I think that this idea of women being in power or having power or being empowered is new, and it's relatively new in our day and age, and it scares a lot of people, and it's not a bad thing. I mean, men wouldn't necessarily lose power. They're sharing it. It's not an exclusive thing, power, I don't think.
Can you go back to the second wave for a sec, Christine, and talk about because nobody alive listening to this program will remember the suffragettes, I don't suppose, but there might be people looking back on the 60s, 70s before the backlash. The second wave, which we've associated with, bra burning. Where did that come from? What's that got to do with it all?
Well, bra burning, it started as a reaction to, women are told to dress a certain way in order to be appealing to the opposite sex. And bras are a part of that. Bras are saying, you don't want your breasts to be saggy, do you? So you might want to wear a bra to make them perky so that men will like you and you'll get married and you'll live happily ever after. So I think this one little wave of burning bras, which actually, isn't such a bad idea. They don't really want to necessarily, conform to what, men want us to look. We want to look the way we want to look. But that spiraled out of control, I think.
Right, and who are the kind of writers, what are the books and the films and things that would say this was what feminism was in the 60s and 70s in particular? What do we look to? Germaine Greer? We do our Germaine Greer?
Yeah, Germaine Greer, absolutely. Andrew Dworkin is another great one. I mean, those were probably some of the seminal books that came out in that time. I think there's been, a lot of films, a lot of Hollywood films have actually touched on this idea. I mean, Sumlin Louise is the perfect example of that, which is it's a rejection, of how men treat women, of what is imposed upon them, what they feel their role in society is, and they just run off with each other and kind of live the dream that they want, and I think that was a really powerful film.
Separatists, they used to be called it. They're the women who would live without men as a way forward.
Were they called separatists? That's interesting.
So. Are we now in the third wave of feminism?
I think that we're inching towards it. Yeah, I think that I think women are still really afraid. of people are really afraid to actually use the word feminist because they're afraid of the connotations, they're afraid of what it means. And I think that, you really have to stand up and say, I'm not going to be afraid to say that I deserve all the rights I'm entitled to as a human being. And
and Christine, I think I know your answer, but I'll ask it anyway. What do you feel when a man, as it were, claims even this territory from women and says, yes, I'm a feminist too?
Well, like I said before, feminism is not an exclusive, community. I think that that's a great thing. I think that more men should stand up for it, because I truly believe that everybody on this planet is a feminist unless you believe that one gender is better than the other.
Thank you very much, Christine, at BBC Radio.